Hello, and you are listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke Milton.
And I'm Jacinta.
And this week we're talking about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. It's the worst kind of prince.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand. Trust me, the book was better.
Hello, and we are back. Thank you so much for joining me again, Jacinta. For one of your favourites. You've got a soft spot for this piece of shit.
Hey, don't be mean. I do. I love this book. Actually, when I started reading this one, I didn't get through that much of it because it is a pretty big book.
It's the sort of book you have to train for. That's why we skipped a week last week, because I had to relearn how to read, essentially. I've been reading junior novelizations.
But I started reading it, and I was actually kind of genuinely enjoying it, and I was feeling quite, pessimistic about doing this episode, because I knew you were going to make fun of this movie that I loved.
I do have quite a bit to make fun of. We watched it for the first time last week.
You watched it for the first time.
I watched it
for about the 400th time.
And it was the extended edition too,
Yep.
which is about 5.5 hours long. Feels
5 days long.
Feels that way, yeah. Yeah, we started on the Friday evening. We'd finished just in time for me to get to work on Monday morning. And, look, I do have some issues with it. Though, I've got to say, spoilers here, this book is written by Simon Green. Now, he's an author who's written a ton of original science fiction and fantasy, which includes Deathstalker series, the Hawk and Fisher series, the Nightside series, and about 3 other series that you also haven't ever heard of.
Yeah, right.
And short stories, like I picked out my 2 favourite titles here.
Yeah.
Street Wizard.
Street Wizard.
What do you reckon Street Wizard is about?
It'd be like Harry Potter, except he wears, bandanas and his hat backwards and has concealed weapons and stuff.
Kind of a cool wizard, because wizards aren't generally cool.
No.
I would have gone for a kind of hobo wizard. Because, you see old men with grubby beards wearing kind of handmade robes, chanting weird things to themselves on the street all the time. And people can be very dismissive of them. Get away, old man. Get away, you filthy old man. I'm not going to give you $1 to spend liquor on. And then he just, starts producing sparks and turns you into a frog, or creates, brooms that dance and sweep up by themselves. Things like that.
Or he's just, Radagast and takes his hat off and there's a pile of bird shit under there.
Yeah, Radagast I prefer to call Shitbeard. And the other book he's written a short story was Jesus and Satan Go Jogging in the Desert.
You've got to think that Satan would probably have the stamina to go jogging in the desert, whether Jesus may not.
I reckon Satan might cheat, turn up on a Segway. It's got flames on the wheels.
Possibly.
Yeah.
You would think Satan's probably more used to the heat.
Oh, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jesus, he's just so skinny, He's
pretty skinny.
He'd dehydrate and die again.
I was going to say he comes from a desert place, but when he was born, wasn't it snowing?
I don't know.
Unless Christmas cards have been lying to me. We're very good at religion.
We're really good Christians, yeah.
Sunday school. But what I was going to say about Simon Green,
yes.
which, you'll enjoy this. He's not a terrible writer by any fashion.
No.
He's a very serviceable writer, and he gets through this. I mean, a lot of it is just the script, and he fills in all the gaps adequately. There's not a lot to make fun of in terms of his actual writing style. I think the things I found myself really being affronted by were some of the plot choices and also some of the values which Simon Green commits to pretty heartily in this film/book. It also says on the cover that it's the major motion picture event of the year. Which, what year was it?
I think that's fair enough. Was it 91?
Yeah, I think so. And I kind of laughed at that because it's not very exciting in terms of action or anything like that. I mean, there's no spectacle to it. And you think now major movie events are things like Batman and a new Star Wars, but then I go, hang on, but prior to 91, major movie events were Batman and a new Star Wars. So what happened in those dark ages in the middle there when suddenly a balding Kevin Costner running around a field became the major motion picture event of the year? It makes no sense.
Well, I gotta say, it was my favourite movie of that year.
God, 91. I'd have to look at what else was in 91, but I just can't imagine that this was the big blockbuster. Like, the fact is, there are action figures from this film, and proof of that is that... Well, you tell us.
All right. I saw this movie in the cinema when I was... Well, if it was 91, I would have been turning 7.
Right.
Okay. And actually watching it the other week, I did question my mother's judgment in taking a 7-year-old to this movie because it's really fucking violent, even though it's PG, but...
That's the biggest point I want to make about this film, so put a pin in that and we'll talk about that later.
Okay. But for whatever reason, as a very small child, I adored this movie so much. It just consumed my whole life. And so there were action figures, and so I had all the action figures, and consequently, because I still I looked after my stuff as a kid, I still have my action figures, and they are right here.
Yeah, she's not bullshitting, folks. They're in Ziploc plastic bags. They are on the desk here as we record. I'm looking at the very fine Little John, who I've got some choice words about later on. And these are interesting. There's a little bit of trivia for those people who may have seen these figures. They were released by Kenner/Hasbro and use a lot of vintage Star Wars molds. So the Friar Tuck, which you don't have here, is actually a repainted Gamorrean guard body.
Yeah, we looked that up on the Google that last week, and it's just bizarre.
And as such, he's like about 3/4 of the size of all the other figures. And the Ewok village was repurposed as a... what would you call it? Sherwood Forest hideaway.
Tree village.
Yeah. And even the Ewok battle wagon with the big skull on it was repurposed for this line.
Yeah.
And I must admit, after we watched the film, I got giddy too, because the best thing in this film is Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yes.
And we saw these carded figures were also done Star Wars style with the big photos of the character on the package. And I found a Alan Rickman Sheriff of Nottingham for $8, and that's on its way, on its card. And I want to display it just for that amazing picture of the sheriff.
But we do have the sheriff right here.
Yes.
With his glorious silver cape and...
Pompadour.
Yeah, well, pompadour-ish. I think it's almost flat top-ish.
It's almost like a furry Russian hat.
Yeah, it is very, very bizarre. But he comes with a pimp medallion and, silver cape.
And we'll put some photos of these on the Book Was Better Facebook page or in the Facebook group, perhaps. And if you were wondering, if you're one of those people that were like, where the fuck were you guys last week? And you've got to go on the Facebook page, dudes, and that's how you'll know what's happening. Because I was going to do a mini episode to inform the rest of you, and then I thought, nah, life's too short. So I didn't. But, come and join us there, and you will find out. Now, look, the other thing I want to say about Simon Green, I said that he wasn't that bad a writer, but when I was looking at Goodreads and stuff, and at some of the reviews, and I'll read, of course, some crazy reviews at the end, but there were those people that were like, only Simon Green could turn this terrible film into a gripping book, etc., etc. You know, that sort of just sheer blindness and like hyperbole.
Yeah.
Like, it's a serviceable book. It's not fantastic. And if you didn't like the film, I can't imagine why the fuck you would like the book, because it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So that always makes me laugh. It's kind of like in the last episode when I was talking about Americans being like the people that have only ever had chocolate ice cream and love chocolate ice cream but don't realise that there are other flavours and other things.
Yeah.
And I think Simon Green fans and a lot of, whether it's Peter David fans or whoever, I like that as well. Let's read this friggin' book. I'm stalling because I'm traumatised by it. I left it to the last minute. I read it last night. So let's read the beginning.
Darkness fell across the desert like a hawk upon its prey, and the sinking sun splashed blood across the clouds.
That's a first sentence with both a simile and a metaphor. So this guy, he means business.
Off to a good start.
Yeah.
Shadows lengthened as light fled the land and night closed in around Jerusalem. The crimson sun glared down on the sprawling, mud-walled city like an unblinking, malevolent eye, a reminder, if one was needed, that God saw everything, even in the darkest night.
An ancient, withered figure clothed in black studied the sun from an open-mouthed minaret and raised his voice in the howling, haunting Muslim call to prayer. All through the city, lights burned fitfully against the coming of the dark, and people surged through the narrow streets like ants in a disturbed nest. Day was done, night had come, but for some the true darkness was just beginning.
Jerusalem, in the year of our Lord, 1194, the third year of the Third Crusade. An Arab city. A bad place to be as a Christian. A worse place to be as a Christian prisoner.
Boom, boom. So, it begins.
It's very evocative.
Already.
So exciting.
More similes and metaphors than the entire Smurfs novelisation I've noticed. So, yeah, so you're into this.
Yeah.
You like that.
Yep.
It basically just... That's the first shot of the film, pretty much. There's a guy, like, yelling something from a minaret, and he's like, whoa, the blood-soaked howling, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. No, it's great.
All right. And look, we enter with the shittiest of prisons where an interrogator is torturing everybody.
Yep.
And,
Among the 20 or so dark faces, two paler faces gleamed dully in the flickering light. White men, infidels, the most hated and despised of all. Their clothes were rags, and their skin showed filth and abuse of long imprisonment. But something in the way they held themselves set them apart from their fellow prisoners. Something that in another place and time might almost have been nobility.
So thank Christ we finally have two noble white people, because up until then, I just couldn't relate to this book at all.
I mean, I don't even have a minaret.
No.
Like, you know, I can't relate to Minaret Man.
No. I might have thrown eggs at them or something like that. Might have spray painted some hate words. No. No. That's not even a thing to joke about, is it?
No, of course not. No. Because there's no casual racism in this book at all.
Yeah, no. Very racially...
Very PC.
Very racially sensitive. And I wondered why they cast an American, Kevin Costner, of course, as Robin Hood, until Robin of Locksley and Peter Dubois had come to the east on a glorious quest to reclaim the Holy Lands for Christendom.
Great, because that always ends well.
So, like, there's no other motivation apart from that. This idea that they went and invaded another country and were killing people to spread the word of Jesus.
Yeah.
So, American lead role was perfect. And then some guy gets his hand cut off. And as you said, this is a PG-13 movie. And I was looking at the trivia on IMDb, and apparently one of the guys from the classification board or whatever said that his only regret in his entire career was giving Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, a PG-13 movie. And it is a really fucked up, crazy movie. I thought that while we were watching it, just in terms of values, violence, the heroics, I say, using bunny quotes in the ears that no one can see. I'm not quoting a bunny. Then I would...
Well, you don't know that a bunny's never said that, but, you know, air quotes.
Air quotes. Air quotes. Not air guitar. That'd be this. Can't see that either. Just put in a sound effect, like, you know, when Bill and Ted do the air guitar. Yeah.
Wow,
so
this is an exciting... Stop stalling, Luke. Just come on, let's get on with it.
Well, look, this is all an excuse for action Robin Hood to escape. Although this bit did confuse me.
The other assistant stirred painfully behind the block and groped for the long knife at his belt. Robin stepped over to him and kicked hard between wind and water, and the man stopped moving.
Between wind and water?
Yeah?
Is that the taint?
No! That would be the wind is the lungs, and the water would be the bladder sort of area. So in the diaphragm, he kicked him in the diaphragm, which would be very painful and would make it hard for him to breathe.
But isn't water like the bladder area and wind is your bottom?
No.
Yeah, I've got wind.
No, Luke.
I think he kicked him in the taint.
He did not kick him in the taint, Luke.
Read between the lines. Read between the... I was going to say holes. But he's got a willy hole.
He does have a willy hole.
Kevin Costner's pee-pee hole. Then our Christian heroes burn a man's head alive in a furnace. The interrogator buckled at the knees, and Peter thrust the man's head into the furnace, slamming the door against his neck to hold him there. Horrid screams rang from inside the furnace, but Peter hung on grimly. He grinned broadly, his eyes dancing.
That's perhaps a slight embellishment from the movie, to be fair. I don't remember him being quite so joyous about burning the guy's face off, but sure.
Yeah, very, very Christian. Do unto others
very Christian
like you would like. So Peter obviously wanted to have his head in a furnace at some point.
Yeah.
And then enter Morgan Freeman playing the Moor. Now, I'm really confused here. Maybe you can clear this up. Because they talk about the intricate tattoos all over his face. Isn't that just Morgan Freeman's freckles?
It is. Like, in the movie, it looks like they've kind of gone over them with, like, makeup or something to make them look, you know, not just like freckles.
And then I got even more confused just a few minutes ago when you showed me your Morgan Freeman action figure because its face is cast just in brown plastic and then it has big black dots painted all over its cheeks.
Yeah.
Had Morgan Freeman done many roles up until this point? Is this like a breakout role for him?
I don't know. Surely he would have, because he would have been...
This is pre-Shawshank.
Yeah, it's pre-Shawshank, but he would have been... Kevin Costner was late 30s or something. Morgan Freeman wouldn't have been far off that.
All I can think is that they tattooed dots on his face
and then he could never get them
role.
off.
And and they've been stuck on him ever since.
Slowly fading.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Poor bugger. That's commitment to your craft, though, isn't it?
That's Hollywood, man. It's a tough town.
And look, he's a stoic, noble man, a religious man as well, who rescues them by leading them through the sewers, only stopping to break men's necks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And eat cantaloupes and stuff.
Make their widows cry. Oh, when he eats that cantaloupe.
I remembered that scene so vividly. We watched it last week and I just had this incredible smash of nostalgia. Watching him eat a fucking cantaloupe was bizarre.
You did. Kevin Costner's picking at his with his fingers and Morgan Freeman's going to town on it like it's a woman. I feel like, Robin should be taking notes. But look, seriously, fuck these guys. I mean, here are our values here.
He ran towards the soldiers, sword in hand, and once again he was the great and powerful warrior who'd first come to the Holy Land, seeking fame and glory and honour for his faith. All his old strength and skill blazed within him, and he cut down the first soldier to meet him with a contemptuous blow.
So religion, honour, butchering people and making their widows and children cry.
Yeah, and he hasn't eaten for, probably about 6 months. He's weak as shit. But, he's got the strength of his faith in him.
Oh, yeah.
So he can punch dudes in the face.
Strength of the Lord. At least Peter is killed here. So that's something.
Yeah, we got rid of the unnecessary third character.
And the Morgan Freeman, whose name is Azim, now owes Robin a life debt, which seems to be like the eternal curse of both black people and Wookiees. Doesn't it? And Gungans, actually.
Oh... Yeah.
You imagine
less about that.
Morgan Freeman laying on top of Kevin Costner, licking his face, going, "Moi, miss, I love you."
Oh.
All right. So back in Locksley Castle, Simon Green does his best to describe the beautiful Brian Blessed. Now we teased everyone at April Fool's by putting Brian Blessed into a movie that didn't exist. But this is the real deal. Yeah. This is not a trick. This is actual Brian Blessed, who plays Robin's dad, Lord Locksley.
Not an old man, but older than his years, head bent and shoulders bowed by the weight of too many sorrows.
It's more like the weight of too many pies, am I right? God. Anyway, don't get too attached to him, as he is set upon by... From out of the gloom, a group of figures appeared, drifting towards the castle. They carried torches and were dressed in masks, hideous gargoyle faces and loose robes. Devil worshippers! Of course, there would have to be devil worshippers. I don't actually know the original Robin Hood story.
I only know vague bits of it. I remember as a very, very young child after I'd seen the movie, going to the library and picking up the Robin Hood book and basically opening up to the page where Maid Marian dies, which does not happen in the movie, and I went, oh, and then closed it and never read it again.
And Green always refers to them as devil worshippers, even quite clumsily throughout the book, which it's like
they look like Ku Klux Klan.
it's like an old person talking about rock and rollers or something. And anyway, Loxley is strung up and stabbed to death by an albino crone.
Oh, there you go.
That's the worst kind of crone.
Which is also not in the movie.
And this is the most morbid, violent tale ever, essentially. Robin and Azim return to England, instantly attacked on the beach by their French sailor friends for no particular reason. And then a 10-year-old kid called Wolf is chased by dogs who are under the control of a guy called Sir Guy.
Sir Guy of Gisborne.
Sir Guy of Gisborne.
The forest drew near, but Wolf knew he wasn't going to make it in time. He was going to die, but he was damned if he was going to make it easy for them. He wondered if it would hurt much and hoped he wouldn't cry.
Yeah, so kid fantasizing about when he's going to be torn to death by dogs. And Wolf is heading on a collision course with Robin, who is busy being very easily impressed. The sheer abundance of both plant and animal life fascinated him. It was like an oasis without ending, an explosion of living things with none of the strict self-control of desert life. I saw the film. He's in a fucking empty field.
Yeah, but compared to Jerusalem, I'm pretty sure that would look pretty good to him.
It was grass.
Yeah.
Well, did you see an abundance of plant and animal life? There might have been a sheep.
There was a tree and some grass. What more do you want?
A butterfly, maybe?
There fucking might have been. This is 1991. Cameras weren't good then.
That's true.
There might have been a flock of butterflies that just weren't picked up.
You had to paint spots on zebras if you wanted to. Cows.
When they digitally remaster it, you may well see all these butterflies and shit.
They should give it the Lucas treatment.
Yep.
It'd be England full of tigers and kangaroos and eagles. Snuffleupaguses. Robin rushes to save Wolf from the authorities and ends up actually murdering at least 4 of them, shoots them in between the eyes and stuff, but doesn't really know why these authorities were chasing the kid in the first place. I figure, Robin had been away from England too long to hear the chilling tales of Wolf the baby rapist.
Are you saying that he rapes babies or that he's a baby and he rapes?
Both.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he got a taste for it. And seriously, after killing all of Sir Guy's men and letting a terrified Sir Guy escape, Robin really still doesn't know why he's doing this, as evidenced by...
The boy sniffed quickly and wiped his nose on his sleeve, his eyes darting from Robin to the moor and back again. Wolf. Name's Wolf. Was Gisborne telling the truth, said Robin. Did you kill the king's deer?
You might want to find that out before you murder everybody, Robin. Just, a couple of questions. He's not a heroic character at all. He's just a complete and utter fucking douchebag.
Well, maybe in Jerusalem it's very kill or be killed. Maybe he was feeling threatened by these men, and so he just killed them.
I just can't even imagine, when I think of this scene particularly, why Kevin Costner, what was he doing to be the lead of this film? Somebody that was going to sell tickets. Because he doesn't stretch himself at all. He's incredibly thinning in his hair, and it's very windy. Yeah, so it's just this loose, thin hair flying around all over the place. He just looks like a moron all the way through. He's just being a complete and utter dick to everybody. I just can't imagine why people went, oh, Kevin Costner is Robin Hood. Let's, off we go. And I can't imagine why kids would have been engaged with this film either, to the point where they could sell them action figures. It's just insane.
Worked for me.
Yeah, different time. More PG fun as Robin returns to the castle to find the decaying corpse of his father hanging decoratively and his cheery old pal, Duncan.
I'm sorry, my lord, said Duncan. I would have brought him down, if only I could see. He pushed back his hood with trembling hands, and the moonlight fell harshly across his disfigured face. Deep scars crossed his cheeks and forehead, and his eyes were nothing but dark, empty sockets.
Yes, plus the devil worshipper's final cruel act after taking Duncan's eyes was rearranging all the furniture. Okay, you should have seen the bruises on this guy's shins.
Oh, he's such an elderly man. You know how old people bruise.
Where's the Duncan action figure?
They didn't make one. I think literally the only ones that I don't have are the Friar Tuck, and there was an alternate Robin. They didn't make a Marion either.
No, well, girls, boys don't buy action figures of girls.
Sure.
Except in my room currently.
Yeah.
Like the ladies. Alright, so enter the Sheriff of Nottingham as Sir Guy brings in the news of Robin's return. And as I said, he is absolutely the best part of the film. It's Alan Rickman just turned up to 11, being just a fabulous character. He's got a lot of funny lines and a lot of wacky physical performance as well.
Yeah, this is obviously definitely something I did not appreciate as a kid, but watching again as an adult, he is just incredible. Even if you have no interest in watching this movie, just watch it for him because he's brilliant.
And on IMDb it points out that he actually refused the role initially and then said he'd do it if he had carte blanche to do whatever the fuck he wanted, and he certainly does that. Here's the description. The Sheriff of Nottingham was a tall, slender man in his early 30s with sharp features and cold, dark eyes. The face was handsome in a brutal, unyielding way, and the faint smile that played around his mouth held little warmth and less humour. He dressed always in the finest silks and wore them with a casual elegance that was only a little studied. He sat in his chair as though it was a throne, and at his feet crouched a half-naked girl. Finally, a character that we can relate to. And I need to ask, does he bite the girl in the film?
Oh.
In the book, he, grabs her hand and he takes it off like he's going to kiss it, and then he bites her hard and draws blood and tells that she's going to have to, enjoy the distinction between pleasure and pain.
Oh, I can't remember.
No, I don't think that happened.
No.
I think we remember Alan Rickman being introduced and then biting a naked lady until
possibly.
she bled. Now, he's actually a lot more sinister in the book than he is in the film.
Yes.
Where he's quite a funny character to a degree. And it's obvious that he was working from a script that had been written before Alan Rickman came in and started to fuck with it.
Yeah.
And of course, women in these films are either desirable or they're crones. And here's a rather nice description of the elderly devil-worshipping woman that lives in the sheriff's basement.
A sudden cackle cut the air, and a wrinkled monkey-like figure came dancing and spinning out of the shadows.
So this is, how do we pronounce her name?
Mortiana.
Mortiana.
Yeah.
The crone gestured quickly with one hand and produced a large goose egg, apparently out of nowhere. Well, we know where eggs come from. She rolled it around in her hand for a moment and then tore the egg apart with her fingers. A foul mixture of blood and albumin splashed onto the platter before her.
Gross.
Yep.
That's disgusting. That was even pretty gross in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does this every month too, which is disgusting.
Aww.
Meanwhile, there's a close call for Robin when he heads down to Dubois Mansion to reunite with childhood friend Marion. And this is probably the most frightening thing he confronts in the entire book. There's a shadowy figure claiming to be Marion, but
The woman stepped forward into the light, and Robin had to fight down a strong impulse to take several steps backwards. It was possible that somewhere in his many travels that he might have met a fatter and uglier woman than the one looking down on him, but he was damned if he could remember it. The last time he'd seen a face like that, it had been sneering down at him from a cathedral roof.
Holy fuck. So you can imagine, take yourself back to a cinema in 1991. The disgusted audience is already, they're on their feet and they're about to leave the theatre. They're just horrified that they might have to sit through 2 hours of a fat and ugly Maid Marian. But then suddenly relax everyone. Turns out it's all a fake out and the real Marian is a beautiful woman. So everyone
to some taste.
Yeah,
yes.
So everybody gets to sit back down, relax, and keep stuffing their fat, ugly faces with popcorn. It's fantastic. And did I mention Marion also tries to kill him?
Yeah.
Everyone tries to kill Robin. And then
Maybe you should start to take a hint.
Yeah, then the soldiers turn up and try and kill him, and he just pisses off. Jumps out a window or something.
You've got to feel a little bit sorry for the actress playing fake Maid Marian, because, I mean, it's probably unlikely that she would bother to read the novelisation, but surely there was something along those lines in the script. It was like, a super ugly butt troll comes out and pretends to be Maid Marian. You wouldn't feel great.
She's not even, that fat or ugly.
No.
It's more like you go, oh, you're Marion? I'm going to believe it anyway.
No.
So fuck him.
Because we've all seen the trailer.
Yeah. Robin, Zeme, and Duncan, so they've got no choice but to hide in the haunted Sherwood Forest. And Simon Green, I do give him credit here. He does his best to sell what is essentially the most underwhelming forest ever committed to film.
Its boundaries were known and documented, but few had ever penetrated the secrets of its dark heart. Sherwood was perhaps the last remnant of old England, wild England, from the time before man and his works, where life ran riot hand in hand with its sister death. Within Sherwood Forest, laws were put aside, customs forgotten, and those who left the paths and entered its green embrace were rarely seen again. Sherwood was the haven of lost souls, the birthplace of dreams, the last refuge of the outlaw, the one place where no man pursued.
It's just a fucking bunch of trees, though, isn't it?
No, it's Sherwood Forest. It's magical.
There's no tree beard or anything in there.
No, that's because that's in a fantasy land, Luke.
That's kind of a disappointing forest,
this is
too.
real.
Don't you reckon? Fangorn? It's such a shot inside the studio forest. And this is like shot in the woods behind Kevin Costner's place forest.
No, no, Luke, it's a real forest, you know, they can't do anything crazy with Sherwood Forest because it exists and it's a real thing.
Oh, they actually went to Sherwood.
Oh, I don't know.
They must have done. So, look, they're about to cross the river when they are accosted by shaggy, wild-eyed men. And in the film, these have to be the ugliest extras that have ever been assembled. No doubt to make Costner look a little bit more palatable by comparison. And this includes the filthy, red-jacketed Will Scarlet, played bewilderingly by Christian Slater, who seems determined to out-American Costner when it comes to accents and like language and demeanour.
Yeah, he's already got far better hair. He's got his hair is amazing in this movie. It is the most 90s hair.
It's just everything happening from his head down kind of sucks. And we also meet Little John. Bullock's mate, said a loud, jovial voice from back in the trees on the far bank, and the woodsman parted and fell back as a huge, heavily muscled figure moved forward. Bullocks, as in like cattle. Americans are so dumb.
Nobody says bullocks.
I think they meant bollocks.
Possibly. And there was a little typo, and they just didn't join up the top of the O properly.
No, I just don't think they realised that it's two separate words. I've been catching up on some American podcasts this last week, and some of the pronunciations of words are just astounding. And I've heard this before, creek, as in a stream. Crick.
Yeah. Crick?
Crick.
No!
How would you get an I sound out of a double E? Crick.
Oh, the one that really gets
That's
me
like,
is their pronunciation of Craig.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Craig.
Take a good fucking hard look at yourself, Americans.
And Graham becomes Graham.
Oh.
Craig Graham. Oh, and I've been watching things like Face Off and things where they do soldering with soldering irons, and people that are in that industry say soldering.
Oh.
And
Sounds a little bit too close to sodomy.
And I was like, am I imagining that? And then I Googled soldering and saw all these people in forums and stuff going, I'm looking for a soldering iron. They don't call gold God. Although that would be ironic, wouldn't it? Yeah. SOLD America. Sometimes they just skip ones that, letters. It reminds me of when I was a kid and I was reading Asterix books and some of those big names. I would just have a rough approximation in my head and just kind of skip over it without reading it.
Yep.
That's what they do with most words. Now, notice that Little John is an ironic name because he's actually quite huge. Other appropriately ironic names for him would have been Pretty John.
Yes.
Or Oscar-winning John. Is another alternative.
Don't be mean.
And this leads to the quarterstaff fight in the river and perhaps the best line in the entire book.
All right, me old cock, said John amiably. You ready for a good walloping?
Robin Hood, Prince of Cockwallopers.
He does actually say cock in the movie.
I thought he said me old cocker in the film.
Was it cock? Oh, maybe it was cocker. Yeah, maybe he ad-libbed. That was his ad-lib. They got him the Oscar.
He was like, should I really be calling him a cock? What about cocker?
He's like, well, I'm English and I'm kind of a little bit more on tune with these terms and I think I can improve this.
I should say, if any Americans want to get us back, we struggle with our T's and D's, though, don't we? That's something I always hear when I listen back to the podcast. I always go, the book was better, quite consciously, because otherwise I'll say the book was better. And they were fighting in the water.
Yeah.
Water.
Can't toilet.
Water. Yeah, and they say toilet.
Yeah, that is.
Gonna the toilet.
To be fair, that is just you that says toilet.
Yeah,
toilet.
but that's like a sort of regional thing, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. If you grow up hearing things said in a funny way, like my family are from Yorkshire originally, and they say us instead of us. So I just find it really hard to say us because of it, and it sounds unnatural because I overdo it. So, look, there's stuff, but still, crick, fuck off. Robin beats the shit out of him, and suddenly everybody is friends. Yeah, this is like the biggest 180 since the Ewoks.
Well, it's funny, it was pretty much set in the same place.
It was, yeah. And Bull even tries to show Robin his old cock.
Why do they call you Bull? Asked Robin politely. Because you are short? Nay, said Bull proudly, because I be so long. He started to pull down his trousers, but Robin quickly stopped him with an upraised hand.
And we're missing a scene where Robin smears himself with horse shit in order to gain entrance into the city, which is kind of a fitting metaphor for Costner's performance in this film. And look, he does this to go and meet with Marion and then the bishop, and he sounds happier to see the bishop.
I see a boy I knew in the man before me. Welcome home, Robin.
He reached out to Robin, and after a moment, Robin leaned forward and kissed the bishop's ring. That's pretty friendly.
This bishop was probably, there were some creepy characters in this movie. I reckon the bishop was scarier than the old crone. He was a creepy fucker.
And the Robin, he confronted the Robin. He's the Robin. He should call himself that. Robin confronts the sheriff and, being the hero of our story, cuts his face with a concealed knife before fucking off out of a window. This is seriously Robin Hood, Prince of Chavs. And look, it's really here that we miss Alan Rickman's own genius, seeing how all the funny lines turn out to be ad-libbed and are therefore missing from the book. And here's the saddest one that's missing.
The sheriff was glaring up at him, pressing a blood-soaked handkerchief to his face, almost out of his mind with pain and rage. Loxley, I'll carve out your heart for this.
And what does he say in the film, though?
Carve your heart out with a spoon.
Yeah, no spoon. What is this, The Matrix?
Fucking hell. That's such an iconic line.
Yep.
Now, even if you haven't seen the movie, you are aware of that line.
Not if you just read the book. And we should note, there's no photo section in this epic adult novel. However, the previous owner's genuine original cinema ticket has been included in it as a bookmark. And they saw this film at the Century Pinole in California.
There you go.
So I thought that was pretty cool. There's an ancient relic. It makes it all a bit more authentic. This person must have had a total boner for Robin Hood at that point to buy the book and see the film. Or buy the book before seeing the film, or straight after seeing the film.
Straight out, because they couldn't have had the ticket.
True.
If they hadn't seen the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have bought the book first, read it, taken it to the film, and put the ticket
read
in.
along.
Maybe
they read along. Oh.
And all sorts of stupid shit goes down from this point. Robin returns to Sherwood on the sheriff's horse, and he's all like, hey dudes, I fucked up his shit. And they're like, you fucking dick, now he's going to come and smash our taints in. And Robert's like, Robert Hood, it's his brother. And Robin's like, we'll bollocks that prick if he does. And the sheriff's men, sure enough, they go down, they burn down all the villages and knock the shit out of all the poor people, basically because Robin is an idiot.
Yep.
And we also find out that Little John's wife is called Fanny Little, which is clearly another ironic name.
It was brilliant.
She's massive.
They didn't really start saying her name until later in the movie, and then they were just saying it all the time.
I've got us covered, don't worry.
All the time.
And everybody is then making Robin just feel like a total prick because they're all homeless and injured and dead because of him.
A woman held up a starving baby for Robin to see, its eyes huge in its shrunken face.
That's cold.
Aww.
The refugees and the woodsman looked uncertainly from Robin to Scarlet. He sneered openly at Robin. What would you have us do, rich boy? Fight armed and mounted troops with rocks and bare hands? Seriously, have we already forgotten the Battle of Endor? It works out fine.
Yeah.
A couple of log traps.
Yep, it's fine.
Sort of. They lost, what, one Ewok?
Well, you do need...
And he was old and sick anyway.
Yeah, and I guess they can replace the Ewoks with those gaunt babies.
Yeah,
It'll
that's
be fine.
right.
It'll
Same
be fine.
thing.
Yeah.
So Robin starts his career in a montage of taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Totally right in the face of economics.
Yep.
And even Simon Green is sick of this shit, distilling the entire carriage heist down to about a single paragraph. It's pretty much like, so Robin robbed some dumb carriage and took some bitch's diamond ring and gave it to, I don't know, the cripple.
Oh, actually, before that bit, in the movie, when they're doing all their pillaging and stealing food and stuff, remember the bit where he takes that loaf of bread and then brings it back to Duncan?
Oh yes, that's the best thing. It's a massive. It's like a rock, and Duncan's blind and looking like he's on his last breath. He's just completely so sick of this shit.
That's the ambulance coming to get Duncan.
He's laying on his back against a tree, and Robin Hood goes, "Bread," and throws this big rock of bread, which pins the poor old man to the ground. But then in the background, in the next scene...
He's just sitting there.
He's just sitting there looking at the bread on his chest, just like... Even though he can't see, but it just looks like he's looking at it going, the fuck is this thing?
Are you sure this is bread?
This will clog me up for a week.
Oh, that was absolutely hilarious. But okay, no, moving on. Now.
So the Robin Hood and his merry men are described as...
distributing their booty to those whose need was greatest.
Robin Hood, Prince of Booty Calls. My need is great, Robin.
We get to see some booty a bit later on.
Yes. And look, the sheriff is totally pimping here.
The sheriff gestured brusquely for one of the young women to turn around on the spot. She did so timidly, and the sheriff watched her coldly, absently picking at the scar on his cheek.
Although he doesn't cancel Christmas either in this thing, which was in the trailer.
Damn it.
Fuck you, book. Although he does say, "You, to my bed, tonight," which kind of warms me. I like that.
Didn't he have a couple of them, though? Like, he had a few and he sort of gave them all instructions, and only one of them got... Oh, no, it was two to his bed. I can't remember.
Anyway, Green really seems bored by proceedings now. I kind of love the casualness of this. Later that day, in Mordiana's chambers, deep beneath the castle, the sheriff pulled on his devil worshipper's robes with even less enthusiasm than usual. The albino hag watched him narrowly from her blasphemous devil's altar, already running with the blood of 13 animal sacrifices. Just another day at the office. And here's Friar Tuck, who gives no fucks.
The friar was a man of average height, but decidedly more than average girth. His face seemed to be permanently flushed, his large nose blossomed redly with broken veins, and his grubby monk's habit was practically held together with new and ancient beer stains. His great round face was dominated by a pursed mouth in a scruffy beard and disturbingly direct eyes.
I do like that little disturbingly direct eyes.
I don't remember him having disturbingly direct eyes in the movie.
That's a nice way to kind of sum up a sex pest, though, isn't it? And Costner and Slater were both immediately disappointed to learn that he wasn't a fryer of chickens.
Oh, they had all this bread. They just wanted a bit of fried chicken to put in it.
I know, they've been painting all the red stripes on the buckets all morning. Now look, here's the real moment we've all been waiting for. You alluded to it earlier. Marion comes into the woods to see Robin and finds a little more than she bargained for. She didn't realise there was going to be a full moon in the middle of the day.
Ow! But down in the pool in the cool dark waters, a man was bathing. Robin Hood. Naked and alone in the primal setting, unaware of any audience, he seemed more like a creature of the wild than a man. His muscles were broad and starkly defined, with little overlay of fat to smooth their harsh lines.
I'm impressed by Green's writing here.
He's being very positive.
Well, I mean, I'm impressed by his typing. No, actually, I mean, I'm impressed that he can type with one hand. We don't want to ruin anyone who got like a lady boner or a boner at Kevin Costner's backside in this scene, but it was actually a double. Body double. An ass double.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't that starkly defined muscles.
No, I looked at him and thought, yeah, that's Kevin Costner's ass.
Yeah.
Was not.
No. I think that Kevin Costner looks worse than that.
But oh shit, I'm glad that this didn't happen in the film. Will Christian Slater Scarlet enters with a lute and strummed at his lute as though it might fight back. This, he announced grandly, is a song about love. She was so young and round and fair that I gave her my heart, and then that wench, despite my cries, did tear it all apart. For she was not what she had seemed, and there, my friends, take heed. Beware of those who charm with lies, the way to ruin they will lead. So not even the 2.5 hour extended edition had the balls to keep that scene in.
Christ, I wonder if they filmed that.
If they did, they never let anybody see it.
That.
Yeah. And then Fanny gives birth. Let's alternate between these.
Oh, all right. Fanny clutch. I can't even do this. Okay. Fanny clutched tightly at Little John's hand.
Very, a lot of muscle control. I like that. Little John looked at Fanny.
He shut the door behind Little John and then gestured for Azim to move a little away from Fanny.
He was a bit lactose intolerant. Marion slipped a piece of wood between Fanny's teeth.
Azim muttered with awe in Arabic as he tended to Fanny.
Got to tend to the Fanny.
Oh, shit.
Alright, so look, we need a third act. So Marion is taken by the sheriff after almost being raped by a soldier, and then a whole bunch of wild Celts charge the Ewok village in Sherwood and capture all the peasants and shit. This is PG-13, remember?
Yeah. People are getting shot in the face with, like, flaming arrows and stuff.
Savage cries and laughter rang on the night as the Celts cut down men and women alike. Blood flew on the moonlit air and soaked the trampled earth, and from every direction came the screams of the wounded and dying. And John's Fanny was nearly on fire as well. That was the bit I was... My Fanny is on fire! He screams.
And his Fanny swung across a gaping maw.
Yeah. Irony. And the sheriff has captured the ringleaders and plans to hang them and marry Marion, because, let's be fair, it's right there in the name.
Yeah.
And a lot of other tomfuckery happens. Will Scarlet is released to kill Robin, but instead tells him they are brothers. And they become the best of bros in a second after hating the shit out of each other all book.
Robin hugged Scarlet to him, and the two men stood locked in fierce embrace, trying to crush away all the years that had separated them. The others exchanged confused, delighted grins. A lot of things had suddenly become clearer.
Bullshit.
What things?
And the sheriff discovers that the albino crone has been spying on him through a glory hole. And is also his mother.
Oh, okay.
And they don't hug it out.
No.
And this sequence, it is in the extended edition, but it was so important apparently that it was cut from the theatrical release and actually has no further impact on the story at all.
Yeah.
So the good guys plan to storm the castle and get Marion back and to kill some people.
Robin looked thoughtfully at Fanny's determined chin and nodded to her. All right, Fanny, you'll take position here. Little John shook his head disgustedly.
Gotta get that Fanny into position.
I imagine that'd be pretty distracting. You're trying to storm a castle with a Fanny. Just put the Fanny there and they'll be like, what's with this Fanny? And everybody else can save the prisoners.
You gotta be careful where you position it. And the heroes, after sneaking into the city, finally spring into action where young Wolf is hanged.
Wolf dangled helplessly from the gibbet, twisting and kicking as the noose slowly strangled him.
And slowly is a very good descriptor there.
Yeah, it takes him about 10 minutes to save him.
In the film, like, he actually gets hanged. The thing gets kicked out from under him, and he's, like, just being strangled forever. I thought you got your neck broken and shat yourself, but apparently, no.
Well, that was the thing. In the movie, the sheriff specified, because if the drop... I think it would have to do with the length of the rope. If the drop is too far, then that's when they can break their neck. But if there's less of a drop, then they're going to strangle. And the sheriff specifies that he didn't want any broken necks.
Fair enough.
I was paying attention.
So was I. To my phone. The sheriff seals himself with Marion in the chapel, and he basically wants to have a really quick wedding while all these men are being murdered outside. And Robin starts quoting the great Bryan Adams.
Is she worth it? Asked Azim. Robin grinned. Worth dying for.
And that's not the only time in the film that the lyrics from that song are quoted. It's constant. And also disappointed, there's when Robin catapults across the walls in the film, Christian Slater says in this PG-13 film, "Fuck me, he cleared it." Which is how people talked in those days.
Fucketh me.
And this is also conspicuously absent from the book. So the sheriff tries to rape Marion while marrying her.
He forced her hands down and knelt on her arms, pinning them as he tore at the front of her dress. Mortiana watched, smiling. The bishop faltered his way through the remains of the marriage ceremony with rolling, panicked eyes.
This makes Game of Thrones look like the Care Bears movie.
It's pretty, it's quite graphic, but Alan Rickman does seem to inject a bit of, I don't want to say comedy because it's not comedic.
He does a comedy rape. He puts he does that move where he puts his legs down in between hers and then pops her legs out to the sides. It's wrong. Okay, so we're going to read the ending. Robin's marrying Marion, and suddenly a strange figure rocks up. "Who interrupts my wedding?" said Robin.
The armoured man pulled off his helmet to reveal a familiar face. "Your king, Robin of Locksley."
"Richard," said Marion.
Robin and Marion and all the congregation dropped to one knee before him and bowed their heads to King Richard the Lionhearted, but none of them put away their weapons.
"Away, put your weapon!"
King Richard noted this and smiled slightly.
"You realise I cannot allow this wedding to go forward," he began, and then paused as Robin lifted his head and fixed the king with a cold, speculative gaze. The king smiled. "Without giving away the bride," his smile widened as he looked down at Marion. "You look radiant, cousin."
"We are deeply honoured, your majesty," said Robin.
"It is I who am honoured, Lord Locksley," said the king. "Thanks to you, I still have a throne. Proceed with the ceremony, good friar."
Tuck put aside his club and quickly finished the ceremony before any other interruptions could take place.
Probably a club sandwich.
Robin and Marion kissed and everyone cheered.
"Save that," said Tuck after a while. "We're wasting good drinking time."
They broke apart, laughing. Fanny and Wolf brought in a marvellous wedding cake, so huge it had to be carried in on its own trolley. Azim presented Robin with a knife to cut it.
"I wish you many sons, my friend," he said solemnly, "and many daughters, presumably to drown in the river."
Hundreds of doves were released to mark the moment, and the sound of their wings filled the forest. And Robin and Marion and the woodsman and King Richard celebrated together all through that day and long into the night in the great green dream of Sherwood.
The end.
The end.
And King Richard was played by Sean Connery, who was paid $250,000 to appear on the last page of that book. All right, so we've got to ask you, as I always do. I know the answer already. Was the book better?
No.
No, you like the film?
Yep.
I'm going to go with the film too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the book too. No. I liked it in a different way.
You were wrong.
I'm not wrong. Everyone's just different, Luke.
Well, there's some Amazon reviews. Just a couple. "Loved this book. Made me want to rent the movie. Got it pretty quickly. Would buy again from this seller."
Great.
Another person who's confused.
Yeah.
Amazon for eBay. And here's a longer one. I thought this was appropriately enthusiastic. "When I first decided to pick up this book and read it, I wasn't completely certain. I had seen the film and enjoyed it, but I didn't know if I could handle the book. But after reading just a few pages, I was hooked. The basic outline is that Robin Hood is the hero that steals money from the rich, gives to the poor, whilst having a growing love interest with childhood friend Maid Marian, a new friendship with the woodsman of Sherwood Forest, and a growing verbal and physical spar with his enemy, the Sheriff of Nottingham. This book is fabulous. It is a book you never want to put down. It has violence, but nothing too nasty. It has romance, but nothing too slushy or rude. I hate rude romance.
Oh, God.
It has comedy, but nothing cheesy or overly obvious. It is enchanting, a good example of human strength, and if you think it will just be men being ever-ruling and powerful, there is some big-time girl power in here.
No, there's not.
It is probably the best book I have ever read. It's a book that when you have just a few more pages left, you want there to be so many more. It's such a good book, you don't want it to end. There is never a dull moment, never a moment when you want to skip the odd paragraph. Also, what is great is it isn't amazingly complicated. It's 100% enjoyable to read, and I'm sure you've already guessed, but I do like it quite a lot. I have nothing to say against this book. It is a timeless gem of a book. It's suitable for anyone, really, over the age of 9 or 10! If you like this, you will also like Tudor Terry by Terry Deary, author of Horrible Histories. If you like the film of Robin Hood, then the book will blow your mind!
I actually wrote that review.
Whew. I'm so unpassionate about this book. And on Goodreads, poor old Mary Lou appears to have been hurt at some time in her past. Entertaining book. My favourite quotes in the book. For he was not what he seemed, and there, my friends, take heed. Beware of those who charm with lies, the way to ruin they'll lead. Men conveniently speak of love when it suits their purpose. When it doesn't, it suddenly becomes a burden.
Jesus, lighten up, Mary Lou.
We feel for you, Mary Lou. There's someone out. There's plenty of fish in the sea. So that's fine. She'll find a special someone.
Yeah, plenty of fish in the sea, and some of the others have fishy beards. You know, there's a lot of fish
Plenty
happening.
of octopuses with grabby hands.
You've just got to decide what your level of fish tolerance is, Mary Lou.
Plenty of slippery eels. Alright, next week? No idea. I got no idea what I'm doing next week. I'm really disorganised at the moment, people. Hopefully something magical will happen.
Or maybe I'll just be back here again, reading like a comic version of something.
I'll wake up and little elves will have solved my problem for me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this again, Jacinta.
No problem. It was my pleasure to have my heart thieved by the Prince of Thieves.
The Prince of Chavs. Please follow us on Facebook, like us, and come and join the discussion on our Book Was Better discussion group page. Well, that's it. So
That's it.
we'll catch you on
The flips.
Emoji.